as we start off this conversation with coffee in hand this morning. So welcome to today's panel webinar discussion. We're going to be talking about how to use data and integrations to achieve your franchise marketing goals next year. We have the dynamic duo of panelists today. Will Fraker, VP of Brand and Performance Marketing at Modern Performance and Recovery Brands, and Ashley Mitchell, the VP of Marketing at East Coast Wings and Grill. And I'm your moderator, Erin Martin, the VP of Marketing here at Netsertive. And before we jump in, I'd just love to do a quick round of introductions for the panel to introduce yourselves. So Will, could you kick it off with a quick intro and background of yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks for having us today. So you mentioned it. I'm the VP of Brand and Performance at Modern Recovery Brands and Performance and Recovery, and we are a brand that's focused solely on helping people get back to the life that they love and feeling free from pain and discomfort. And so our sole focus is on making sure that we're helping people do that. We have four different brands that we currently represent. The largest of which is the Good Feet store. I've been working there for a little bit now, and before that, I've been in the franchising space for almost 10 years now, about 10 years. And so looking forward to having a conversation with Ashley today. She's always a fantastic person to get to chat with. So thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And Ashley, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, so I'm Ashley. I've spent my entire career in marketing communications roles. I started in franchising when I fell into it, as most people do, in I believe it was 2014, after a 6 or so year stint with the Walt Disney Company. So my franchise experience spans consumer marketing, franchise development, mergers and acquisitions, both being acquired and acquiring other brands, and working with private equity firms. And so I've been the CMO for a handful of brands in a variety of industries over the years: youth enrichment, beauty concepts, QSR, B2B, home services. And I currently lead all things marketing for East Coast Wings and Grill, as Aaron mentioned.
Awesome. Well, super excited to have you guys today. A few reminders before we jump in. We're happy to answer questions throughout if they arise. You can pop them into the chat and we'll try to get to them. And as always, you'll get the recording and highlights after. And then just a quick note on Netsertive, if you're not already familiar, we're a digital marketing partner who takes a centralized approach for scaling your digital marketing. So as always, if you have any questions after this, feel free to hit us up. So today we don't have any slides for you guys. We're just going to jump right into the good stuff. And so, Will, I was lucky enough to attend your panel at France CXC back in June, where you talked about an awesome case study of the tools and the data that you use to improve the customer experience of the Good Feet store. And so I was just wondering if you could kick us off and talk about a little bit of the background of what you guys have in place in terms of your tech stack, and just the lay of the land of how you've kind of built your systems to be able to use data and integrations.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that's been most exciting about this year in particular with the Good Feet store is that we've made a lot of strides towards implementing new, whether that's platforms, technologies, or strategies that have helped us really get to a place where we understand exactly what's going on with the business. And one of the things that we were lacking in years previous was just understanding more specifically about what was working in what area, how our franchisees were performing in certain pieces, whether that was operationally or with their marketing efforts. And so this year has been a year of bringing in new tools, new processes, new strategies, like I mentioned, to help us uncover, kind of pull back the curtain a little bit and go, oh, that's actually what's going on here, or oh, that's what that number should be. And so a couple of those things that we've really been utilizing well is partnering with people like Salesforce. Tableau is a big reporting tool for us. We redesigned our website that we launched back in October, and that website has a number of new technologies and integrations that allows us to capture from the marketing perspective data like what our users are doing on the website, storing that information, and then passing that through into Salesforce to build in with the customer record. So now I know that it's not just Aaron that came to our website and booked an appointment for a free fitting, but I know the source where you came from. And so implementing technologies like that has given us a lot more opportunity to market back to you through something like remarketing with personalized messaging, or to ensure that I understand what's driving best performance. Is it this channel or that channel? Because I can understand, what source is driving all of that performance. So we've made a lot of strides towards increasing the quality and the breadth of our tech stack. And those are just a few of the things that we've done this year so far. And we still got more to go. So we're excited about it.
Yeah, and when it comes to Tableau, what are you guys using that for specifically? I often see teams use it for deeper level of marketing metrics. I think you also mentioned having a separate data warehouse that you guys
Yeah.
started. So how did those two play into it?
Yes, we have a fantastic team of folks that manage a lot of this data for us. And so what we do is we bring everything into a data warehouse. We use Snowflake in particular, but there are a lot out there. And Snowflake helps us just bring all the data in and centralize it. So whether that's from the website, that's from our POS system, the CRM system, and then we will take all of that information and then figure out how we want to best organize that in Tableau. So Tableau actually for us, we use that for almost everything in terms of reporting. So yes, it is marketing related. I have a ton of reports that I have built out for us so that we can see who's coming in, what source they're coming in from. Maybe it's the demo or close rate that we have for our operations side, so I can understand how well our marketing is performing once the customers get to the store. But it also contains information about how well our stores are doing, whether that's performance on number of products sold, or how well the specialists are doing. Even there's performance data that we have in there as well for the ops team. So it contains a number of pieces for us, and we can get pretty in depth with it. And we're really only scratching the surface about the amount of data we get in, because it's one thing to have the data available. It's a whole nother thing to organize it in such a way that it becomes useful for you. And
Yeah.
so Tableau can be one of those things where if you don't have somebody thinking strategically about the system, and we have a great team, like I said, behind it, you can just end up getting a whole lot of data and going, okay, well, what do I do with this now? And so what's great is that we give not only our corporate teams, of course, access to Tableau, but our franchisees have some access to Tableau to see certain reports, so they can go in and look at, like I said, the number of people coming in each week, or performance on sales and things like that. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I was going
And
to say the biggest thing is having that data, and like what Will just said about you can have all the data in the world, but if you don't organize it, not even just organize it, but organize it, and then what story is it telling? I don't know if you guys have ever seen that like Lego diagram thing that's been around forever. Like there's a bunch of Lego bricks, and then here's data, here's your data, here's data organized here, and then
oh
it's just
yeah, love
color,
that.
and then at the end it's a little house, and it's like that's the story. I'm the person that needs the story. I do not want to be the person that digs in and figures out what the story is. Like that's just not me. I need people that are going to help me tell the story, tell me the story, and then I can make a strategic decision based on that. And so luckily for me, we have a unit level economics department, and that's all they do is they take all of the data from all of the places and analyze it and come back and say, here's what this is, here's what it's telling us. And then I can say, okay, then let's do this based on that. And so determine, if we are looking at the different metrics from a location and maybe their operational metrics are not good, well, I'm not going to pour more marketing dollars into them to get people there to have a poor experience. So we're going to pause on that and say, fix your ops first, and then I'll give you more marketing dollars. And so having a team that's able to tell me that is super valuable. So if you don't have one, try and get one, because it's great.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys both have powerhouse teams that helps organize that data, which is huge. And Ashley, we actually got a question specifically for you, someone who is very interested in learning more about your role stepping in about a year ago now. I think you've been with East Coast Wings and Grill, and what the lay of the land was, and then what tools you've implemented since then as well. So can you give a little background of other tools you guys are using and systems?
Yeah. So for us, and it's for me, it's stepping into something like completely new in some ways. Like franchise marketing is franchise marketing, but I did not come from the food space. I have some food experience, but definitely more on the like youth enrichment services side of the franchise space. Then there are differences when it comes to food, right? So the biggest one probably being loyalty programs. So loyalty programs in food work very differently and are so much more important than they are in some other businesses. Like referrals and stuff are always important, but a loyalty program and being able to communicate with those people that are actually coming, and what does that look like? Our loyalty program guests come in more frequently and they spend more money. And so we obviously want to be able to market to them, get them to come even more if they're spending on average, $7 more in their ticket than a non-loyalty guest. We want them to come all day, every day. So how that loyalty program then overlays with our online ordering and our e-gift and all of those things, it's a world that I knew really nothing about and have really dove into in how do you get them all to communicate. Some programs are just loyalty, some are just gifts, some are just online ordering, and we want to have the best of the best. So we actually layer a bunch on top of each other, which is great. But also then obviously with technology, there comes challenges of them communicating. So, just this week we had an issue with getting our e-gift promotion to work, and how does it work through the loyalty program, and then also with our online ordering so that they can do everything. And luckily we have partners that are willing to get together and be like, you guys figure it out. So that it's something that it's not like somebody pointing a finger, oh, it's them, oh no, it's their system, and getting them to just get together and figure it out has been something that has been super helpful. I'll say the biggest thing that we've implemented since I came on board in April is we were, I would say, late to the game when it comes to implementing any use of AI functionality, just from a privacy standpoint, because we are very much want to protect, the fears that everybody has about AI and protecting your intellectual property and all of that kind of stuff. And it to the point where like I have used it previously. And so as I was coming in, I was like, there are ways we can do it in a smart way. And so figuring out what tools and resources that we're going to use, what are we going to use GPT for? What are we going to use this other program for? Are we going to let it have AI? Are we going to have, an AI addendum for all of our contracts with our vendor partners so that they can use it, because that will help them better help us. And so we've jumped on that train, full force now. And I think that has definitely helped improve our productivity and efficiencies and all of that.
Yeah. And from a privacy concern perspective, were you saying like sharing internal information was like your concern of having those? Yeah. Learn about your company.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what are some specifics of how you guys are using it today then, given like what you said? Like what's an example of how you implement it?
Yeah. So one thing, so our unit level economics department, right? They have all of that information and they would come back and present, here's the story and here's all of the information. It's helping them refine how they're telling the story to us, so that it can be more concise and it can be more actionable, because we have so much information and they have so many insights, and those are great insights. But sometimes I'm like, okay, dummy it down for me. Like I need just the basics. And because they are so in it, it was hard for them to do that. And so being able to use AI and say like, okay, take all of this information, tell me the top 10 trends, tell me like what are the 10 strengths, what are the 10 weaknesses, and then how would you convey this in a way that somebody that doesn't sit in a data seat would understand.
Yeah, that's awesome. Give me the punchline.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. And going back to Will, one thing you said about Snowflake, we use Snowflake as well. But the marketing team, that's nothing that we touched in terms of spearheading that project. It was our product and engineering team. So I'm curious for you guys, was that like a company-wide effort? Was it your ops team? Like who spearheaded that and got it in place?
Yeah, I think this is actually a great point about how marketing and the tech side, or it's your product side, or it's your engineering side, how they can collaborate and work together. So yes, same thing. I barely knew about what Snowflake was outside of a data warehouse before our fantastic team over there got stuff all set up for us, and then learning about how much you could actually do in there, store, organize, develop, and then to spit that out in our case into Tableau was so fantastic. But the engineering, the product team, the development team, the tech side, they didn't necessarily know what we wanted, right? They're going to, okay, we've got all this data in here, and it was important for us to cross collaborate on, okay, I want this data and this data, but not these pieces, or at least marketing doesn't care about these things. And so it is important, like Ashley was saying, it's like we don't necessarily as marketers have to be the people who know how to put all that data together. What we need to know is what's important to us to get to the goal that we're trying to get to. And so in order for me and our team to achieve success, that looks like understanding how many appointments we're driving, what were the walk-in numbers for our stores, for instance. And so those pieces exist out there. We need to work with our teams cross collaboratively and ask them, hey, we need these pieces and we need to have it organized in this way, so that what right at this point, what I can do is I can go into Tableau, I can go to one report, and I can look at, 6 or 7 data points that all matter to our team, and we can make actionable decisions on those things. So that's kind of how we set it up. We definitely had our fantastic team spearhead it, but then we collaborated with them to make sure that it was meaningful to us on the marketing side. And we do that with ops, we do that with training, we do that with different parts of the business. So
Yeah, you're pretty much living the marketer's dream then, because there's not, I wouldn't say a ton of people who are at that level that have teams or that level of data at their fingertips. So what advice would you give people that small crew don't have a team that can help with those type of insights? Like, and I
yeah,
say that in that I think there's a lot you can still do if you know your customer. Like sometimes you don't need to overbake data. So do you guys have any tips
Yeah.
for that scenario?
I think this is actually a really important point because you're right. I think that I came from a brand before this that we didn't have the teams, the resources, the tech stack that we had today, that we have today, and that's such a blessing to have. And so if you've got that situation, it's actually, there's a double-edged sword here, because back to the point we made earlier, you can have too much data. You can not know what to do with the information. Hey, I've got 1,000 data points, Will. What do you want to know? Oh, and then you better know how to organize that information or what you want to know from it, because that can feel overwhelming with when you have too many pieces, and then you get into that phrase, what analysis paralysis.
Mhm.
But then okay, so on the flip side, you can be there going, I only have access to like two things. I have Google Analytics, and you maybe have access to a CRM that manages your customer database. And so what do you do at that point? I think where it comes in for us when I was in these smaller brands is understanding exactly what was going to be important for me first, and then prioritizing those things. So, as an example, one of the data pieces that we have now that I haven't had before, was organizing all of our. This is going to sound super technical, but source UTM parameters, which is for marketers, we know what those things are, right? Dependent to all the URLs, and I can have those organized in any way that I want, and then attach those parameters to different revenue streams. So I can look at like specific source pieces, mediums, all these things by like revenue or by the person. And so that's like, you have to have a ton of data for that information organized well. Fantastic to have that. But on the side where you don't have a lot of resources, one of the things you want to start with is, okay, what does a marketer need to know? Well, I need to know where my traffic is coming from. And so starting from there, you can ask the question, once you have the question, where's my traffic coming from? You can start to answer that. And I would say prioritizing what's important to you first. You might not necessarily care about organizing your UTM data at this point. You might just want to know, hey, was this organic or was this paid? And how am I making sure that I understand the difference between the two, with my paid advertising along with any traffic that's coming to my website. And then it's about how you answer that question. And sometimes that's Google Analytics. We actually used HubSpot at one point as well, which was a super helpful partner because they were able to do more than one thing for us. So partnering with one partner made it possible to achieve a couple of other additional things that we didn't have before. So I would say you want to be scrappy, but start with where what things you need to know, and then prioritize those things so you can start answering them, with either technologies or partners.
Yeah. And to Will's point, like understand what is actually going to drive something that's going to help you make a decision and help your business. And don't get caught up in the vanity metrics. There are so many different things that you can get caught up in. And then also
Mhm.
work with partners that understand that when you don't have a team, you have to, obviously you have budget constraints and you're not going to be able to have a million partners either, but working with partners that understand where you're at and what you need to know and are not going to just be like, oh, well, you got this many impressions today. Cool. What does that mean? What does that do?
Mhm.
Is that going to help you make a decision? No. Like, yes, maybe that's something that you need to look at for other reasons down the road, but is that something that's going to help you make a decision that's going to drive your business? No. So think about what are the first things that you need to do? What's your responsibility? Get people in the door, get that traffic to the location if you're a brick and mortar, or get somebody to make a, inquiry on your website if you're a service brand and it's something that you don't have four walls. Figure out what is the thing that you're responsible for, and then what can you figure out that will help you make better decisions to accomplish that goal, instead of just thinking, I need all the data in the world.
Yeah.
So I think it can be tough to, as a marketer, we might feel like you have to own everything. So if you're sitting there going, I'm in this position. What do I do? I would say that you don't have to know, you don't have to have all the answers. I personally love the data stuff. I probably get in the weeds a little too much with some of that, but that's okay. What I need to be able to do is make sure that I'm coming outside of the weeds and asking the right questions. Ashley might not love data as much as I do, but she knows the questions that she needs to answer. And so she has the resources and says, hey guys, I need to know these things so that I can make the right decision. So whether you're in either spot, it's important for you to not be overwhelmed by it, but to know, okay, what are the things I'm responsible for? How do I go and find out what those answers are?
Yeah, that's good. And we got a really good question from the listeners. And one question is, at what point in the evolution of the brand, so number of stores, revenue, et cetera, was the unit level economics department stood up? And then same for Snowflake. What level of growth did you guys pull that in? And maybe Will, you could kick it off.
Sure. So for us, this was something that we knew that we needed because at the time so the brand was growing. We had, I think, when we brought Snowflake in, that was a decision that again our product team made, our tech team made. And I think what they were dealing with at the time was we need a way to centralize all the information. And so it was not it was a need that came out of the fact that we had a lot of disparate channels pouring data into our system. So again, we had Google Analytics, we would have operations data, POS data, sales data, all of these different things were coming in. And we were going to each of those channels in particular and saying, okay, what's the data from you? And then we were gathering it and putting it together. So one of the things that our product team was able to do was to say, okay, I think at this point we need to have a centralized system that can have all of these different feeds come into one place so that the product team in this case, could go in and grab it. So I think it was born out of a need for us. It wasn't necessarily like, do we have the money at this point, or is this the right stage in growth for us to do this? It came out of the need of like, hey, we need to know this information if we are going to go any further than we are right now in a smart and strategic way. How do we do that best? And for us, it was organize the information. I need to know what's here so that I can take out of it what I need to know. So for us, that's the kind of the precipitating event, I suppose.
Yeah. And I'll just chime in. I think also the key thing with a data warehouse or Snowflake is it's built for integration. So that's the beauty of it. So if you have like a CRM, a POS, marketing automation, and you're like trying to get the 5 things to work together, and these 2 have a 2-way sync, but this one only has a 1-way sync, and then there's jacket up data over here, like you can't integrate 5 things well if it's all doing this thing. But if you have that one tool that's built for integrations, and then it sounds like Tableau is kind of the polish to be able to view the data that's all collected correctly, like that is the beauty of having that type of system handle everything. You eliminate a lot of problems that way. So, and Ashley, how about on your end?
Yeah, so we're probably an anomaly that we started our unit level economics department very early on, because the most important thing to like us as a brand, we are driven by unit level economics. We literally have that phrase trademarked. Our CEO, if you guys know who Sam Ballas is, EBITDA is his favorite word, and ULE and EBITDA are words that get thrown around all the time here because the most important thing to make the system successful is that unit level economics. And so it started very early because we wanted to deep dive into the franchisees. The reports that we look at are so granular. Every single day we get a report from our team that's like, here's the sales for every location and what it compares to last week and what it compares to last year. Are they up? Are they down? What's going on? And we get that granular because if they're not super successful, then we're not super successful. So we implemented it probably much earlier than other people would. We're only 34 locations, soon to be 35. And we've had this team for years and years and years. But all of our locations are doing well and super profitable. And it's because we've grown that way intentionally with that focus on what's happening at the unit level.
Yeah, I love that. It's like ingrained into your culture and values and way of doing things that makes you different, which is awesome. Great way to do it. And so then turning to, now that we've got some insights, let's talk about how you guys use the data. And maybe Ashley, you could start, you talk about that awesome team who feeds you some stories. What are some examples of ways that you've seen insights and then applied that to better marketing?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is what I mentioned at the beginning is understanding what's happening at the unit level to know how to market or not to market, or how to do it. I'm never going to turn everything off completely, but if we have a location that's having inflection because of operational issues, we could look at that and say, we could look at it without knowing that it's because of an operational issue and just say their sales are down. Marketing, it's your problem, which happens in a lot of companies and happens most of the time, right? Sales are down, it's marketing's problem. Sales are up, operations are great. We all know that everybody knows that it gets said for a reason, because it does. But because we take that more granular level, we know, okay, well, this clearly, look at their NPS has dropped. Look at their, check average has dropped. Look at this, all of these things that have dropped. This isn't just a pump more marketing into the market and it's going to let's fix the problems before we go and spend money in that market right now. So that's, I think, the biggest thing, because it allows us to be smart with our marketing dollars and not just throw things at it to try and get more. I could look at it just from a marketing perspective and say, okay, well, I'm going to get you more people and I could get them more traffic, but then they're going to have a terrible experience and that's not good for the brand. So we don't look at anything as a marketing thing, an operations thing, like, oh, marketing got more people there, so marketing did their job. If marketing got more people there and they couldn't keep them, I didn't do my job, because then that's the terrible experience. And I also, as marketing, own the customer experience. So it's really just figuring out, it gives me the ability to get more granular and realize what I should and shouldn't be doing for the betterment of the brand and not just for marketing.
Yeah. And what other things are you looking at as kind of some key metrics in that slice of the pie? Definitely EBITDA.
Yes.
What are some other key things that you look at?
Yeah, we look at that net operating income even more so than EBITDA, honestly. Like, we've kind of switched to looking at NOI more. We're looking at their NPS from an experience standpoint. And then we're also looking at just what is their cost of sales too, and making sure that they're keeping everything in line. Because again, if they're spending too much money to do the experience, I don't want to throw more marketing on top of it. So we really look at it all in totality. And then obviously, like, the normal, like, marketing metrics of what's our cost per acquisition and, how much it's costing to get people in the door versus getting people to buy online and all of those different things. So those I feel like are pretty standard, but we get a little bit deeper.
Yeah, nice. And Will, how about you in terms of using data to improve personalization and marketing? I know at the Good Feed store, you guys are doing some cool things. So can you share a little on how you guys use that?
Yeah, all the data that we have is giving us insights on how to approach the different marketing channels that we're investing in, that we're focusing in on. So, as one example that the technology has revealed to us that we then make decisions on is one of the ways that somebody can come and visit the Good Feed store is they can walk in. And for a very long time, and it still is, it dominates the percentage of overall what we call opportunities into our store. People who just walk into the store make up, a third, if not more, or I'm sorry, not a third of the 75% or more of our traffic. They're coming in because they see the store, they've heard about it, they've seen a TV commercial, they're interested, and so they come in and check us out. But one of the things that we've also noticed is that we also allow for people to book appointments with us, and so for a long time, we would group those together. And in some reports, we'll still do that because we want to understand what are the total opportunities for that store that day. But for the marketing side, one of the things that we got to start to see in the data was that appointments were a higher intent customer because they were making, this kind of makes sense, right? They're making the decision before they come in to have visited the website, said, I'm going to book an appointment. And on the website, what we did is we actually made it really easy for somebody to choose their date and time that they want to come in. So making it really convenient for them. But they're making an intentional step about their appointment with us so that we can spend the time that it's going to take for us to properly fit them, understand their lifestyle, make sure that we get them the arch supports that are best going to help them get back to the life that they love. And so we noticed that from the data, we could see that appointments were more valuable, let's say, than the average walk-in, right? Both are important, and we understand that walk-ins are critical to the business. But hey, if we can drive an appointment, we know that our specialists will have a better time engaging with that individual because that individual is already coming in with an understanding of what we do. And so when we're looking at this from the marketing side, right, that's an ops data point. From the marketing side, where we're going is, okay, how do we increase the number of appointments that we're driving. Not that we don't want to drive walk-ins, of course, that's obviously not the point, but the idea is that if we can get more appointments in as a higher share of the total opportunities, then we can have an easier time converting, which of course would then lead to additional revenue. And so that's one of the things that we're focused in on is what channels are going to help us drive appointments, what channels are going to help us get that person to an educated place where they're not just coming in on a whim, but they're going, you know what, I think this thing can help me, this product can help me. I'm going to go ahead and make an appointment instead of just coming in. So that's one data point that we saw from the product side that the data revealed that then we then took action on. And so that's something that we're really focusing on right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what kind of mix do you guys have going right now? Like if you kind of did the lay of the land of the different channels and approach you guys have going, what is that?
So this has been fascinating because we use a lot of traditional TV. The brand was built. We've been in business for a very, very long time. We haven't always been a franchise system for just as long. But one of the things that we have always done is focused on traditional marketing. It's been a huge help for us. Especially because our demographic tends to be 40, or I'm sorry, 50 plus. Now we do get 30s and 40s into the store, and they actually do pretty well. But the majority of our opportunities and the majority of the sales come from that 50 plus demo. And so one of the things when we're looking at our marketing mix is where do we spend those dollars most effectively? And 25 years ago, TV with that demo was huge. TV still had, and I'm talking traditional TV, not even connected television at this point, right? Was a huge opportunity for us and still is. We still spend a good amount of our marketing dollars on traditional TV.
I see your
But
TV ads all the time, Will. See them all the time.
there you go. We're doing our job. You're not quite 50 yet, but
Yeah.
at
No.
some point it's going to make an impact. Um, but what we've been doing is we've been shifting our focus not from traditional to these more connected channels, and so that means bringing in digital where we might have been a little late to the game on digital and the amount of digital that we're doing, but now it becomes part of our marketing mix in the last several years, where we're now not just doing traditional TV because we know that even grandma is getting off of her TV at some point and has a cell phone and is on Facebook checking in on the grandkids. And so we understand that they're going to be spending time there. And so having a digital solution on social or advertising a plan on social, making sure that we're connecting with people like influencers. We have medical ambassadors that work with us to try and connect with our audiences that might be skew a little bit younger, but even those who are in the older demographic, they appreciate a professional opinion. So there's lots of these different channels that we're working on. So we run digital, we run connected TV, we run some traditional like radio and TV, and all of that comes together to help contribute. I like to use the word contribute. One of the things that I've learned as a marketer is that we have to be careful with how we communicate our value to our CFO or to our CEO, because if we say, well, marketing did this, there's a lot of times pushback on that because it's like, well, all these other things are happening. How do you know it's just marketing that was responsible for this? Or more specifically, a channel. Well, digital did, this. And so I think, and that's a totally fair point. So I've been starting to use the word contributing or contributory or it contributing to, because then it makes it feel, because it is, that it all has an impact together. Digital is one of the channels out of the 7 to 14 that an average person needs as a touch point to make an impact before they make that decision. So yeah, that's a little bit about how we're using our marketing mix to make us more successful.
Yeah.
And I love that you say contributing, because it then also gets people to reframe like what is the silver bullet, because we all know there is no silver bullet, and what's the one
Yes.
thing we should be doing.
Yeah. And I think also like, number one, figure out where your customer is. Like just figure out where they are, and then you can deploy the tactic that can reach them with the right message there. Like sometimes I think we just like, okay, we've got like this great idea, or we're going to do XYZ. And we think about the channel first, not as opposed to looking at that overall customer journey and what contributes to moving them through the funnel. So it's like you need that approach to it, not the other way around. And Ashley, for you guys, I think specifically with the loyalty program, you guys probably have a cool, rich set of first-party data. Is there any examples that you guys have of being able to implement first-party data that's informed some of your marketing strategy and tactics as well?
Yeah, so we do have a lot of first party data from having the loyalty app. That's the biggest thing that we use when it comes to that, because obviously that's how we get that information and are able to target them. So we have the ability, because of that, to set up things based on their habits, their personal habits. So going back to like the personalization stuff that Will was talking about, we can do that very easily with that first party data. So we know when somebody hasn't come in for 30 days, and we can send them we miss you, here's $2, come back in. We know when it's somebody's birthday. We know when somebody is, they always come in and they always order burgers. Well, if they always order burgers, if we have a new burger coming out, we want to make sure that we're going to let them know that there's a new burger coming out. Or if they always order burgers and burger prices are high and we want to steer them somewhere else, maybe we need to send them something that's not burger specific. And so we have the ability to see all of their very specific habits, and that lets us do a lot of customization toward them, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's great. And then for the third party side of things, are either of you pulling in third party data sources in any way? I know often on the advertising side, that can be super helpful for supplementing customer lists and being able to identify additional people to reach, but wasn't sure if you guys had any examples.
I mean, a little bit on the targeting side, just for like paid digital and stuff like that, but nothing too crazy. Trying to stay away from it as much as we can, just because we know that it's not really something that's going to be around in the way that it's around now forever. So
yeah, that's true.
The way that and I agree with Ashley. I think that we've tried to stay away from that on the I'll say the prospecting side. But one of the things we're having conversations about is what could enrichment look like on the CRM side. So if the customer is giving us X, Y, and Z, how could we add additional A, B, and C to their customer profile that helps us understand a little bit more about who they are? An easy example is overlaying, let's say, like zip code information. So we'll get certain information about where they what store they went to, of course, and things like that. But is there a trend with zip codes around the store that are more profitable than others? And we can think about this really simply, like just like income data, for each zip code. There might be zip codes that are don't have the affluency that we might want to go after. We might want to focus on these zip codes because they're more in our target demo. So those are things like we're looking at in terms of layering on data there. But we try not to rely too much on it for targeting or things of that nature, because again, I think some of these cookies are going to depreciate and it's not going to be as useful to us. And so we don't want to have to get caught red-handed, or not red-handed, but off foot or whatever. Empty-handed, maybe. Yeah. Not having the
first
information.
party data is where it's at. And I love that you called out supplementing customer information just to better understand their behaviors and background. I always remember, I think also, I don't know if it was on your panel at FranCXC, Will, or if it was a different one, but Erin Walter from Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steak Burgers, her sharing the example of same thing. They were looking at customer data. They supplemented it to get more insights into what their customers looked like and liked and loved, and they found that they loved Reese's Pieces. And so that was their next milkshake combination. Or I might be botching it. She might kill me. It might have been Snickers.
It sounded right, though.
It sounded right. I mean, you sounded very confident.
Really scrumptious candies that they then infused into a milkshake partnership that was epic, because they learned more about the customer through supplementing data. So, all right, well, we've got a little bit of time for a few more questions. You guys are both technically super savvy. So I'm just curious, how do you guys stay up on everything? Like, what's your best sources for learning information, staying on top of things, like staying away from noise? I don't know. Any tips for us?
Mine is having a friend like Will, who's actually the one that's super tech savvy. And I reach out to Will and say, Will, what about this?
I think that you're so kind, Ashley, but I think the one thing for me is I mean, staying curious is the number one thing. If you have nothing else, be curious about everything that's going on with the business, because that has honestly led me to learn new technologies. The reason I understand how to use Google Tag Manager, for marketers will understand what that is. That was me being curious about how does that actually work and could help our business. And so now I actively use that in our business every day. Or it's being curious about what is driving performance Be curious about the other parts of your business. So if you're a marketer in a marketing chair, it's easy for you to just focus on the marketing channels or analytics or tactics that you care about because you're responsible. We get that. But go and talk to the ops team, see what they're doing. How does the customer actually experience the product or service that you have? What do they care about? Because that could bring in a lot of information for you. I think for the tech side, experience has just honestly been one of the most important things for me. There are so many things that I don't think I ever would have encountered. I'll bring Snowflake back up as an example, or Tableau. Prior to this role, I had not used Tableau before. We had used, Fran Connect, or we used, Heap, or we used HubSpot. You're not going to experience all of these technologies, and it's not helpful for you to just go and learn as many of them as you can. I would say try to understand the ecosystem that you have right now, own it, understand it super well, because if you go to another role, you could have that same technology, or you might need to bring in a Tableau or a HubSpot, and it'll be because you learned it and knew it at the previous role. So those are the
Yeah.
ways I try to keep up with everything, but I don't know if anybody keeps up with it. I'll say
Yeah,
that
that's
there's so
true.
much out there,
Yeah, it's impossible. And I mean, when I was saying like have a friend like Will, like one that is 100% honest, like we've had phone calls at 10 o'clock my time where Will called me and he's like, I'm trying to figure out this thing that you want to do. Like, what's this and that? And he will like, take time to try and figure out how to make something work for me. But it is like, it's having a network, and especially in franchising, like franchising is the most like give back community ever. Like you ask people questions and they will answer. So it's talking to other people and saying like, what are you doing for XYZ? To Will's point, figure out what your holes are and what your problem is and what your ecosystem is. And then if you need something, ask other people and say, what are you doing to solve? This is the problem I have. What are you doing? And they will tell you.
Yeah.
Working point is huge. Yeah, great call out, Ashley. If you don't have a network, start there. That'll be so helpful for you. You can get to the answers so much faster. I actually learned about a brand new translation service because we're working on a Spanish translation version of our site. And through a bunch of different networking touch points, I figured out what we needed to do. Our CBO was super helpful because he had a technology service that he had used in the past. Having a network of people who have their own experiences, it's like you're tapping into a cheat sheet of like, oh, I would have never found this vendor in my life had I tried to just search for it on my own. But because you have a network, you were able to get to the answer much faster. Great point, Ashley.
Yeah, such good advice. I think especially for people maybe younger in their career where it feels like, oh, I'm in this role, I should know what I'm doing, know what I'm talking about. It's like, no, you need to not be scared to ask the questions that you don't know because yeah, 90% you're not going to know. Even as you get to VP and CMO level status, I can tell you, you still never know everything. So don't be scared to ask. Awesome. Well, thank you, Will and Ashley, for joining this morning. This was such an awesome conversation and sharing your wisdom. And thanks for everyone who joined live and anyone who's watching this later on demand. As always, if you have any questions or need help with your own digital marketing, let us know. And we'll send out the recording and highlights later this week. So hope everyone has an awesome rest of their day.
Thanks, Erin.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Ashley.